In the meantime, talk about some other East-related stuff, I guess. Like a lot of other old RPGs from the time, it does require a lot of grinding. But one of my friends made this amusing analogy. A lot of the music is very like 80s pump you up kind of stuff. So the whole game is kind of like this big training montage from Rocky, where you're just kind of running around slamming into stuff with this funky music playing, slowly leveling up. That's kind of one of the reasons it's so fun.
And it's really great in the remake of Ys 1 and 2 Complete, and in their newer Ys games, when you actually run into enemies or hit them, since the newer games do actually have attacks, they explode into bloody chunks when you kill them. And in like the latest one, in Ys Origin, they leave a little bit of blood behind if you have blood turned on, and you can like run through it and leave little bloody footprints and stuff.
That's the
awesome.
Greatest thing ever right there.
Yeah.
It's actually in, I know Ys 1, 2, and that's not working. Ys 1, 2, and Napstim all do this. That if you try to hack the game, it turns on what's something known as genocide mode. And what happens is that you can no longer talk to people in the village. You'll just barrel through them. And you leave guts and blood and everything all through the villagers.
Yeah, it's a really cool anti-hacking measure.
Well, the thing is at that point you can't complete some plot missions. It's like I decided to fuss with one, and I decided to say no to one plot point, to not go to the last stage. And I try to go back, and I'm like, crap, I can't talk to her.
And in Oath and Felghana, they do this as well, and I guess they actually intended for people to find this out, so they have a scream in there for if you kill the main heroine that is played nowhere else in the game. It's only if you kill her after hacking the game. So, video's not working.
Okay, which one do you want to show? Oath and Felghana? Or
actually, let's do... Does it?
Well, we could talk about the newer ones. Yeah, there was, after Ys 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth one, which was strangely never released to the PC. It was only for the PC Engine and Super Famicom. They're both, despite being called Ys 4, they're both completely different games. The Super Famicom one is considered canon for whatever reason, even though it's not really as good.
It's actually closer to the original outline. To my knowledge, Falcom gave Hudson an outline. Hudson just completely whatever, just did their own thing. So Ys 4 is actually, or Mask of the Sun on the Super Famicom is actually far closer to what Falcom did in the beginning.
It was sort of like an experiment for Falcom, where they decided not to develop the next Ys game themselves. Instead, they gave all of their ideas and art for it to two different developers, Tonkin House and Hudson.
There was actually, for a while, Sega had a thing with Falcom, I think, with Sega. And it didn't go too far. They released Popful Mail for the Sega CD. Which is really
great game.
It's a really excellent side-scrolling game, and probably one of the best action games in the system.
Localized by Working Designs in
yeah.
States.
And the Sega version is completely different than all the other versions. It's a lot better, in my opinion. But they were supposed to do a version of Ys 4 for the Mega CD, and that fell through. Then there was Ys 5, which was, I think, done by Koei, who did a lot of their Super Nintendo ports, and it's a really weird game.
A lot of, from what I've heard, a lot of people that ended up going over to the company that did
Illusion of Gaia and Terranigma.
Terranigma and all that. A lot of the people who were from that group ended up working on Ys 5, which is finally being translated by somebody. Deuce did the translation, but I cannot, Gideon Z.
Gideon Z, yeah.
He finally actually managed, the game is actually, its script is actually encoded into a Super Famicom game. And I was like, that's going to some extra links that most people wouldn't do. But apparently, Gideon Z finally cracked the encryption, and he's finally got the game ready to be put together and everything. I will say this, I've played Ys 5, it is probably one of my favorites of the series. Easily, it's got probably the most convoluted story of any of them, but it's great.
Yeah, Ys 5, that's actually one of the ones I haven't played, but it definitely has a very different feel than a lot of the other Ys games. Because one of the things that I've always noticed with Ys games that makes them really cool is the speed of them. You're just like motoring. I mean, Oath and Felghana, most games have their 3-hit combos. Oath and Felghana has a 6-hit combo that you do in like a second. And when you power up, you can do up to like 10 hits. And it's just totally crazy and fast and fun and accompanied by like hard rock. So.
It was also the first one that had a sword button and a jump button. The graphic and music style is a lot closer to other Super Famicom games at the time. It really wasn't that close to the other Ys games. Oh, it's not that bad, it's just bizarre. There were some re-releases that were done by Taito. They re-released East 3, 4, and 5. They remade them, and they're pretty much all trash. Yeah.
I like the remixes of the music in 5. And I like 5's soundtrack, so.
Yeah, it's a good soundtrack.
The original soundtrack is superior to the 2, but it's still nice.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There is one other thing, though, that I always found really amusing about Ys, and I prepared a special subtitled video for you. There's a character who's sort of the sidekick for Adol in pretty much every Ys game, and it's Dogi. And Dogi is just this big, burly, tough guy whose shtick is that he breaks walls in every game. In every game, Adol gets captured, and Dogi just like breaks down the wall and sets him free. And nowhere was this ever more interesting or funny than in Ys 4, The Dawn of Ys.
Actually, in Ys 1, in addition to breaking the wall to break Adol out of prison, he breaks the 4th wall as well and actually steps out over your health bar in his portrait when he shows up on screen.
Actually, if you keep getting Adol thrown into prison, Dogi's like, cut that out, I can't do this all day.
Yeah, he starts breaking different walls every time you get thrown into prison. And you just have holes everywhere. And Ys, for those of you who have played Ys, the Ark of Napishtim on the PS2 or PSP, you may recall the wonderful quotable line, "They call me Dogi the Wall Crusher. Want to get your walls crushed?" Which I just love that line. But this video is just fantastic. Basically, idea is he's bragging that he's saving you, and that he tracked you all the way here, and this is you got yourself captured, and aren't you glad that he came along? And oh, is this the kid who got you trapped in here? I'd better take him back home. Let me go! Oh, shut up, let's just go. But yeah, that's Dogi's shtick right there.
Okay, and I guess that brings us to E6, which is the next in the timeline. That came a good, I think it said 8 years after Ys 5 came out. It was originally released to the PC and was eventually ported to the PS2 and PSP by Konami, and was released in America. You can probably find it for like $15 at GameStop, whatever.
Konami did a really good translation too, but they changed the opening animation in the PS2 version, and they changed all of the character sprites to 3D models.
Yeah, you can still unlock the anime intro, but they did this really bad like 3D CG stuff that
Yeah, it had some really questionable lines in it too. Let's go see the edge of the world together. But yeah.
And the voice actors practically sound like they were dragged in off the street. Just, hey, want to be in a video game?
I thought they were pretty good actually.
Terra
was bad. Anyway.
Did you play the game in Japanese?
Yeah, you could. They did this little cheat system that you could do, and that was like right at the beginning by putting in specific codes, and you could actually change it over to where you could either get the Japanese dialogue with English text, you could get the English dialogue with Japanese text.
Yeah, and they actually have a whole bunch of the code available on their website. So if you really don't want to deal with Terra's annoying grating friend Drescher voice, then you can just check Falcom's website or GameFAQs or something and never have to deal with that again.